Continuing on from my improvement to my multiband gate, I've managed to eliminate my memory corruption bug, so it's pretty much fully complete now. I guess in the coming weeks, I guess it'll probably take me about 2 weeks to finalize a release of all my plugins, because there's been various bug fixes and improvements to them over the period since the last major release of those plugins. So I will actually attempt to do that and send out a notification to existing customers so they can update their plugins. As I mentioned before, I'm not going to be charging anything for existing version 2 plugin holders, so it'll be a free update. But the original demonstration I did was rather limited, because it was obviously just me playing a fragment of a classical piece that I wrote for classical guitar. So although it sounded convincing on that, you could argue that, it may work on that, but does it actually work effectively on everything else? So since actually fixing the software properly so that it's perfectly stable, I have attempted to put it to the test on various pieces that I know that are noise contaminated, that apart from the noise contamination are actually interesting and relatively good quality recordings, but the noise contamination make them rather, I don't know, less so in terms of the enjoyment of them. So, and they span, I don't know, a long length of time. Some of them are quite recent. I think the most recent example, the examples I'll show you, there's 4 of them, and the most recent one would probably date back to about 2017, I think. And the earliest would date back to the 70s, I think. I don't know exactly, probably the late 70s. I don't know the exact date. The earliest example will be from this one. Hopefully me actually using this in the video is not going to get a takedown notice. I don't know. Hopefully not, because they're all commercial pieces. So this album, Jackson Browne, The Pretender, overall, pretty much all the tracks suffer from tape noise. The one I shall show you is The Fuse. It's the opening track from that album, which starts pretty quietly with bass, piano, and hi-hat, basically. So you clearly hear the tape hiss on it. So that's one. That's the earliest example. I don't have the CDs for the two other examples. One is actually I'd like to actually have this CD for Phantom Limbs by it's the album Phantom Limbs by Something for Kate, an Australian band, but it's very hard to come by. I think it's out of pressing, so basically the only way I can listen to it is via streaming services, and that's basically I've played it back through streaming and captured it with FFmpeg, and the track in question on that Something for Kate album, the Phantom Limbs album, is a acoustic piano version of their song Back to You. And I gather it was probably a demo version, sort of home recording done by Paul Dempsey, basically Paul Dempsey singing on piano, and it's highly contaminated with tape or microphone hiss, probably microphone hiss more than tape hiss. I'm not sure whether he recorded it on an analog device or a digital device. I'm guessing it's probably a digital device, but yeah, through noisy microphones, etc. So it's got a lot of hiss contaminating it. A third track, actually that probably dates back, I'm not again entirely sure, I think it dates back to the 70s as well. And it comes from the fact that I have a friend who's a Rush fan, and he really likes two particular albums of theirs. The one is Hemispheres, and the other one is Moving Pictures. And I don't know, I guess about five years ago or something like that, I did a remastering of it using Hubble Harmonic Balancer. And the Hemispheres album in particular it's got a lot of tape hiss on it. So the track that I'm testing it on from that is the track called The Trees. Sort of starts out with a I guess it's a nylon string guitar part, like classical guitar part, played in, I guess it's like a medieval type, medieval style music, basically. So before it goes into the more rock oriented music. So the background noise is very prominent in that as well. And the most recent example that I have comes from this album by the American rock band Thrice, their Palms album, and it's the third track, The Dark, which basically starts with a, I guess a bass guitar part, but it's highly contaminated with, again, probably tape hiss. I'm not sure if it's tape hiss or just microphone hiss, but it's definitely contaminated. So that's pretty much the examples I shall be covering. The way I'll actually cover it so that you can get a full understanding of how well this noise gate is actually working and how artifact free it is in the first instance I'll just play the opening bits where the noise is most prominent, and then cut in the noise gate to show the stark improvement. And I'll do that for all tracks in turn. And then after that, I'll just engage the noise gate on each and play it through in its entirety. And hopefully the video doesn't get a takedown notice. But doing it that way, you can listen to the entire track and satisfy yourself that it's rather artifact free. Surprisingly artifact free. In fact, I find it, what was the phrase that I used to describe it? Amusingly spectacular or something along those lines. Amusing in the sense that I'm amused by the fact that nobody's actually done this before. And if you want a rough explanation of why my approach is different than most other digital noise reduction approaches. As far as I'm aware, most of the digital noise reduction approaches that are currently implemented utilize basically what is commonly referred to as filter bank technology. So it's basically the stuff that sound compression is built on, like MP3s and etc. and those sorts of things. But the reason why I don't use a filter bank approach is essentially because they're prone to aliasing effects. Because a lot of the filter bank approaches are built around the assumption that the analyzer part of the filter bank and then the reconstruction part of the filter bank, like the analysis part creates some degree of aliasing, and then the reconstruction part undoes that aliasing at the end. But that only works if what in between is actually fully preserved. And obviously, if you're going to be gating stuff out, that's not the case. So then invariably you get some degree of aliasing artifacts occurring because of that. My approach doesn't use that at all. It just uses standard finite impulse response, linear phase filtering, and switching between filter frequency responses. So the only artifact you hear is the transitioning of the filter, but there's no aliasing associated with it. It's just a simple filter transition issue. So the artifacts, when you hear artifacts, if you hear artifacts, is simply you actually audibly hearing the filter frequency response changing. It's not actually a distortion as such. It's just you're hearing the changing frequency response. In the same way that if you're, I don't know, listening to a comb filter effect, you know it's a comb filter effect because you can hear what the filter is actually doing to the music as it's going through there. But for the most part, certainly on these examples, and probably the most stark or most difficult to deal with example would be the Something for Kate, Back to You piano piece, because of the level of the noise contamination and the non-stationary level of the background noise, because it's already been compressed and limited. So if you like, the noise level actually modulates a bit with the level of the track. Is that track in particular is quite difficult to deal with, and on a casual listen to that track with the noise gate processing, you would be hard pressed to one, realise that the original had so much noise in the first place, and two, that it is actually being gated. There are some instances where if you listen carefully and you know what you're listening for, you can hear artifacts, but on a casual listen, you're not likely to pick up on them. So I shall attempt to illustrate each of those in turn. Starting first with okay, I don't know, maybe given that this is already in front of me, this multiband gate which is sitting on the trees track, I shall start with that. So if I want it back to here, I'll bypass it first, and I'll just play the opening quiet part and maybe toggle the gate in a few 5 or 6 seconds in, I suppose, something like that.
There is trouble with the trees, for the maples want more sunlight and the oaks ignore their pleas.
So that's what that one. And I think you will agree that that sounds pretty transparent. Again, because I actually know what's going on and I know what to listen for, I can pick out the sound of it actually doing its job without sounding troublesome, if you like, but I can actually hear it working. But on a casual listen, if you didn't actually know that that was the case, it would be hard to pick. I guess the next one I shall try, maybe I'll try the Jackson Browne one. Okay, so again, let's open up the gate, bypass it, start playing, see what it sounds like.
Coming from so far away, it's hard to say for sure whether what I hear is.
So I think you've heard enough of that to, come to the conclusion that it's working pretty transparently and makes a substantial difference to the amount of background noise. Maybe now I'll try the Thrice example. Again, we'll bring up the multiband gate and disable it. It's surprisingly loud, given how modern this recording is. It's surprisingly loud. It's surprising how loud the noise is in this track, given that it's such a new recording. I'm not sure what the reason behind that is. But anyway, here goes.
You try and keep me out of sight. You try and keep me out of sight and out of mind.
That's enough of that to illustrate that that's actually working there. And finally, the piano piece, the piano vocal piece, Back to You by Something for Kate. Yeah. You can actually hear in this one they've used a conventional gate, but it's only effective in a very limited sense. So I'll play a bit longer of this because of that. So, but anyway, let's go see what happens.
sidestepping your own shadow and knowing only what you wanna know. What you wanna know. What you wanna know. Says drama queen, we're leaving. Say your goodbyes for the 100 millionth time. This house is pushing us out. It's just turning heads now. Sweet thing, with hopes like that, you're gonna need help. Sweet thing, with hopes like that, you're gonna need help avoiding the facts. One of these days, one of these days, I found myself talking to ghosts. There's no such thing as a stupid question, but I watch her making so much noise that she thinks that she can win them over, win them over. I watch her making so much noise that she thinks that she can win them over, win them over. But I have a compass, I watch the sundial, and I defy gravity just to get myself back to you.
There you go. There's the complete version of Back to You. One thing I can say about that, if you were paying attention, you would have noticed that the noise levels on the top two bands at the beginning were quite high. They never really dropped right down. The reason for that is because there is a high frequency tone in the noise signal. Like, I'll show an illustration of it. Let's have a look. If I go to here, you'll note. Yeah, see these two bands here? So the reason why the gate isn't completely, well, it doesn't look like it's completely switching off, is because there's a pure high frequency tone in the 14.4K band, and because of the way the windowing leads to some leakage, it affects this band as well. I can, the easy way to actually illustrate that is if I show the channel settings, this spectrograph, you'll see it, but as soon as I hit this, that will disappear. If you go back to here, See this peak here? That's the cause of it. Because there's this high frequency noise in here, tonal noise. I'm not sure where that came from in the original recording, but that's the reason why these two bands don't disappear. But I think you'll agree that that sounds pretty damn good. Really, it's like I said, I can actually hear it working in various places, mainly with his vocal, because the microphone picks up a lot of breathiness in his vocal, and you sort of get this you get these occasional chirp sounds, a bit like chirp sounds, and slight tonal change in his breathiness. So that's how I can pick it up, but it's very subtle, and if you're not actually paying attention to it, you wouldn't notice. And it's not really, it's not troublesome to listen to either. So given how much noise was in the original recording, it's quite remarkable how good it sounds post that processing. And I haven't re-equalized that one, even though I should have, probably, to get the best out of it, because I can hear the timbre of his vocal part is not ideal. It's a bit on I don't know, harsh side on the upper edge of his vocal spectrum. It could have been toned back a bit. But I shall now play the fuse through in its entirety, so you can listen to that, and then the other two tracks as well. But I'll start with this one. I'll leave the gate open so that you can actually see what's going on. It's cued there, that's soloed. Okay, let's go.
From so far away, it's hard to say for sure whether what I hear is music or the wind through an open door. There's a fire high in the empty sky where the sound meets the shore. There's a long distance loneliness rolling out over the desert floor. A part of me, still the heart. Forget what life used to be, what you choose. It's whatever it is you see that life will become. Whatever it is you might think you have nothing to lose. For every day There's a part of me to the heart, though sometimes it's hard to see. Never far alive in eternity that nothing can do. Oh Lord, are there really people starving still?
So there's the fuse. I'd say I'm hard pressed to hear any obvious artifacts in that. Again, because I know what it's doing, I can actually pick out a slight timbre change in the bass guitar part as it decays away, but it's very subtle. Very, very, very subtle. In some regards, I think the trees, this next example that I'm going to show, is probably one of the most impressive ones. Because the noise in that is just so obvious when you play it without the gate. So here goes the trees.
There is unrest in the forest, there is trouble with the trees, for the maples want more sunlight and the oaks ignore their pleas.
that last bit in particular is quite impressive, where you can hear the bird tweets and the bell chimes without the absence of, well, not without, with the absence of noise. Quite surprising, really, because that is quite challenging to actually gate without bringing in artifacts on those particular aspects of the recording, those incidental noises, incidental sounds. But I shall do the final example, Thrice, and you can listen to that, see if you can pick out any artifacts.
You try and keep me out of sight. You try and keep me out of sight and out of mind. Out of mind. You try and keep me from the light. You try and keep me from the light, but I know it's mine. I know it's mine. You're rigging the game. You're part of the system. It shows in the way that you never listen when I speak. I'm not gonna wait. I've made my decision, and I'm not gonna sit in the dark anymore. No, I'm not gonna sit in the dark anymore. You're always telling me I'm not. You're always telling me I'm not enough. But I'm enough. You're always turning back the clock. You're always turning back the clock. The time is up. The time is up. You're rigging the game. You're part of the system. It shows in the way that you never listen when I speak. I'm not gonna wait. I've made my decision, and I'm not gonna sit in the dark anymore. No, I'm not gonna sit in the dark anymore. We're taking our knocks. Not gonna take them anymore. Not gonna stop. 'Cause this ain't a war worth fighting for. Ready or not, together we can get down the door.
So there you have it. Any opinions? Do you think it sounds natural? Is it? I don't know. Can't think of a description. Certainly, from my perspective, yeah, it's a bit gobsmacking. I just think it works incredibly well, and as I say, work toward making this a proper release and notify you when the time comes. So I shall leave it at that.